And a very good evening. It's Sunday the 27th of September, 8 p.m. in the UK, 3 p.m. on the East Coast and midday on the West. Welcome to the Pro Synth Network live show with myself and Ben and Chris. We'll get to those in just a minute. Welcome to everyone in the chat room. Please contribute to the show as much as you can. Tag us, at whoever. And what's that voice in the background? I can hear a voice. No, gone. Is that?
Welcome to the Pro Synth Network live show.
Hang on a sec.
It's me.
It's you.
Sorry. I'm trying to find it. There we go.
Who's that odd voice? I can hear it. That's me. There we go.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. We'll let you off because you're clearly getting on with the studio and you're routing. Before I come to you and talk about routing, let's just say once again in the chat room, if you have any questions for us, if you have any topics you wish us to discuss for sample and hold a little bit later on, we have a couple in the bank, but if you come up with something better, then we'll go with that. Just at Pro Synth Network in the chat room, or at Ben Simpson, or at Synthient Sound. Is that your tag in there, Chris?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So do that, and then that'll get our attention, and then we'll look at you and hopefully pay you some attention and get your question up on there. But let's go, as promised, to Ben Simpson up there in the northwest of England. Are you quarantined at the moment? Have they come down hard in your area?
It started, I think.
Yeah.
I work in a school, and every day we've got more and more people off.
It's crazy.
It's just, it's like hundreds. But apart from that, I don't think I'll be going out anyway. I'm just...
Well, no, you seem to be stuck in that room, but you seem to be getting on really, really well.
Yeah, it's everything's set up now, but not everything's wired up.
Gotcha.
So I'd say about 80% of it is now.
Yeah.
And I've been messing around in it today. But what I've done for the first time this time that I hadn't done before is all the inputs to my samplers. I've got quite a lot of things that I'll sample, like the Phantom, the E64 Ultra, the V-Synths, they'll sample. So I've got a patch bay with all the inputs routed.
Mm-hmm.
So I can just take the outputs from whatever I want and put them straight into that sampler, which is...
Yeah, that saves a lot of messing around, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's gonna save me crawling around the backs. And
Yeah, absolutely. What? So you've got a mixer there, the Yamaha, that large mixer. What is that on the top to the left with the lights across the top and the big round wheel?
That's the X-Touch Behringer.
Oh, right.
Yeah. What I've got is, because this doesn't work as a DAW controller, it's just a mixer. I think there is some software where you can rig it up, but I just thought, like, I'm going to get a screen on here.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of everywhere where I can mix everything. So I can mix all the DAW tracks and the live synth tracks.
Gotcha.
All in one place, really, instead of me jumping from one thing to another. So
yeah.
Unfortunately, the speakers are over here. That's over there. But...
And you've got all that room. I don't know.
Yeah. Loads of room.
But it's looking good. Great to sort of see the progress. You sent us a video midweek. So it was really nice to kind of see how that's all fitting in. So nice stuff. Yeah. Chris, sir, how are you over there in California?
I'm doing well. Just looking at Ben's new studio setup. You got the dark blue walls and white trim. But you got some room for some guitars to hang up there behind you.
I've got a bass. That's all I've got.
Yeah. I'm sure you've got a couple of dead synthesizers that you can nail to the wall or something.
Yeah, I reckon so. I'm still trying to use them though. That's the thing.
So how's things in your world, Chris, in California? How have the fires calmed down?
Yeah, things are pretty calm here.
Good.
Got to see Ben Synthient here this morning. So we had a socially distanced breakfast out on the back patio.
Nice.
He brought us some donuts. So my wife Ben and I just sat out there and talked and had some fun. So
cool.
It was great. And now
good.
I get to do this. So
yep.
Good times.
Indeed. Yes, it's a things are kind of like over here in the UK. Things have started to get a bit bad again, and they're knocking in various restrictions, particularly in Ben's neck of the woods up north, because they're just stupid, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's all getting a little bit odd again. So I guess this is respiratory disease season, as they sometimes refer to it. So it'll be fun. Whatever. Anyway, we can alleviate the lockdown boredom wherever you might be with a little bit of synth chat and nonsense. So we will be going through a various range of topics this evening, as per normal. We've got some interesting news coming up a little bit later on. And, of course, you can contribute to the show in the chat room on YouTube, which is where we like to see you having discussions about what we're talking about and suggestions and all that. So please do get involved. Right, let's do the first topic, I guess. This is an interesting one, and I'm going to have to fill here because I forgot to set my topic window up, but we'll get there in the end. But this is actually an interesting one because normally when synth manufacturers make stuff, they'll make it like, a standard thing, and then they'll release limited edition versions in different color schemes. Moog, no, they do it the other way around. So we've got the Matriarch and we've got the Grandmother in these now like standard black and white traditional Moog styling things going on here. And of course there are some firmware updates, I'm told. I'm not a massive Moog person, but Cryss is, and I'm sure he has been looking into these. So what can you tell us about the new Matriarch and the Grandmother in terms of the design and of the firmware? Anything interesting there that's caught your attention?
So the two different things. The new releases of hardware are just in black, of course. Nothing's changed on them, just the panel that has all the colors on the Grandmother and Matriarch is now black. And then the more important thing for me was a firmware update. And some of the problems that people have been having, in fact, probably two of the most requested features of a firmware update would be the ability to completely reset the firmware, what do you call it, the system-wide name is utterly escaped me, but your global settings, there we go, global.
Okay. Right.
Global settings, because on the Matriarch you don't have a screen, so you enter a mode that puts you in there, and then you navigate the menu of the global settings by hitting keys. So you might hit like this key, and then it'll give you a one white key, and then you'll have the black keys for a menu of settings like, do you want the delay to be bright or dark mode? Mm-hmm. Do you want the ARP to work this way or that way? And so, for people like myself, I got my Matriarch used, and I went in and there were some things that I knew I wanted to change or I wanted to try out. Like I wanted to be in the delay bright mode, and so I tried the dark mode and went back. And so that one I'm sure where it's at, but a lot of us, we don't know what mode, and what everything is set to exactly, especially if you get it used like me, or sometimes, because of the way that you input things, like did I hit C# 3 or C# 4?
Yeah.
To set that particular parameter. So it's really a way to be able to wipe the slate clean with it, and then be able to program it. Now that was one of the things that was most requested. The other is that it would send out a lot of junk MIDI when using it as a controller. So it's got a great keyboard on it. It's got a FITAR board. Amongst other things, I haven't downloaded the update yet. I've been too busy, so I'm really looking forward to that. That was one of the updates I've been most looking forward to. Now, for the black versions, I think it's a good idea because there's a lot of people that didn't like the color. I kind of like in fact, not just kind of, I love the kind of 70s styling of them, the multicolored panels. I like the Matriarch a lot better than the Grandmother as far as the coloring goes. The Matriarch doesn't have that little red blob, but it has the lavender instead for the delay. Mm-hmm. But I understand that a lot of people just want black. What would have been more interesting to me is since they've gone for kind of a classic modular Moog look with just the black panels, is to have seen them do some custom wood sides for it. So to have the black panel top with some wood sides would have looked really fantastic.
And it kind of would make it look like it sat in the same family as the thing to your right there.
Yeah. Or, and especially thinking about some of the modular stuff. I know some of the modular came in, I guess, black sides, I guess. Like, were they vinyl on the old modular? Like some sort of Tolex or something?
Probably something like that.
I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen one up close, but... Native VS says clearly it should have had Tolex sides. Yeah, that would have been interesting to do.
Yeah.
Because it would have given the look of, because obviously they nod at the modular systems.
Yeah. Ben, have you...
what did you guys...
Well, as I say, Ben, I'll go last on this because I really don't have an opinion. But what do you think, Ben?
Sorry, you cut off there.
Oh, sorry. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the new Moog colours?
I like it. I like the design. I think it looks. It's very reminiscent of the '80s mono Moogs, isn't it? It just looks like the Prophecy, the Prodigy, and the Rogue. It looks very similar to them. It kind of looks more retro than the coloured version.
Yeah.
which is a bit weird, because I know that's what they're going for. They were going for like a kind of 70s vibe with that colour scheme. But to me, they look older now. Which I like them. I don't know if I'd have one, but yeah. I think it's a good move. It's good to give people the choice, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't really know anything about the firmware updates, but from what Cryss is saying, that anything where you've got to press keys to access functions is a bit of a nightmare. It's like remembering what you've turned on and what you haven't, and being able to wipe the slate clean is essential, I'd say, in something like that.
Yeah.
One thing that I would really like to see them do, and I'm really surprised they haven't done this yet, is to just develop an app, because you can hook your Matriarch straight up to your computer. So why not have some very simple software? I'm not talking about any sort of MIDI or MPE or anything, just for the global settings, so that you can see everything on one page, make your changes, and be done with it, rather than going through all the, press this key and then press that key and hopefully you did it right. I'm glad that those settings are there. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying there could be a better way to do it.
Yeah. But then it's that compromise between producing something with or without a screen, or with or without, external interactivity with an app. And I guess, they...
But I mean, that's the thing, is like, it doesn't negate either one. Like, if you have an app for it, you can still do it on the synth itself by using the keys in the current fashion. But if you want to hook it up to your phone or to your computer, it would just make life a lot easier when you have to do it. Plus, it's a reference. Yeah. And
it does seem to be the way that a lot of synths are doing. They've got these little editor apps or editor, apps on the computer that allow you to just, tweak settings and that. And it's clearly not a difficult thing to do anymore. But personally, I don't have any skin in this game. This is not my bag. But to be honest, I kind of like the colours of the Matriarch and the Grandmother, in as much as it made it a visual reference point. So you could say, your subconscious will be linking a colour with a particular function, and so it's much easier to then navigate something like that, which I like. And when you then look at the Matriarch's front panel, now that it's all this version is all typically black with white print on it, silk screen printing, it all just kind of what's what. But people were crying out for it, and as Gethsemane Music says in the chat room, the people that didn't like the colours are now ranting about how they don't like the dark version. Ain't it always the way, unfortunately? So there you go. You have a choice. At least you have a choice, and that's
it would be interesting if a third party came out with an overlay, because I know I've seen some like that for, say, like the Behringer Neutron, which set it into certain sections like the Matriarch, so by color you can see where you're at. But there's nothing that would stop anybody from doing an overlay with as was suggested in the chat room, Southwest colors or any other sort of color scheme.
Exactly. And the overlay business seems to be, on the up. I don't know whether that's just because materials and processors are cheaper to access than they were before, but there certainly seems to be a market for custom overlays on a lot of synths nowadays. So, yeah, come up with your own color scheme and make a few.
I think it's interesting. On the Sonic State site, they have a quote from a spokesman. It says, "A compliment to the distinct, multicolored artwork of the original Matriarch and grandmother synthesizers. Dark Series presents a style option that celebrates the intersection of tradition and innovation." So
marketing bollocks, isn't it?
But basically they're saying by taking all the colour away, they're being innovative.
Yeah. And I hate it. I hate it when marketing departments try to sell something and oversell it. Look, you made a synth, it's a great synth, and some people didn't like the colours. So all you got to say is, due to popular demand, here's a dark version. Yeah. Don't give it a name, don't give it a brand, and don't make up some bollocks reason as to why you're doing it, because I sit on marketing calls sometimes at work, and it's a whole different language, and it's just So that's just Look, we've done a black version. There you go. That's all you need. You don't get Behringer going on about, look, we've produced a multicolored version of this because of the synergies of this and the. Shut up. It's a bloomin' synthesizer. It's not supposed to look at it. It's supposed
One thing that I've seen quite a bit of in the last 5 years is in the guitar world, everybody's done their standard colors, but all of a sudden it's been a real big thing. I mean, going all the way back, to the 80s, the heavy metal guys always had like the black guitars, and in classic black, like Telecaster, Stratocaster, whatever, that's always been popular. But in the last 5 years or so, this new stealth type stuff has been out that's been really popular. So you release your regular product and then you do the stealth version of it, whether it's a guitar or an amp. Even amps are doing it now. You do it in a satin black finish, all black hardware, no chrome at all. It's all completely black, and then you call it your stealth version and sell it for more.
Yeah. One day somebody will come up with a paint a paint substance that you can paint your synthesizer or your guitar in, and based on a tiny voltage that's passed through it, it will change colour. So you can, have it any colour you bloomin' want, not just the one that's in the, in the thing. I don't know.
Great.
I gotta say, like playing the Quantum the other day. I mean, so it's got a very neutral palette of color on it, and it looks really nice. But you have all the LEDs seen right in front of the knobs, and then you change oscillator types, and that whole section changes color. And it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
And functional as well.
Yeah, when it's done right and it's done for a reason. If there's a functional reason behind it, I ain't got a problem with it. If it's just done for for the sake of here's a range of colours because we've done our research and a certain demographic likes purple with sky blue spots on. Excuse me, just a minute, guys. I know this is really cruel, but I had a crane fly that was just bombing me, and I think I've got it. It might come back to haunt me. Oh.
Hey, I reckon this might be a synth show first, where we've actually had a death.
Yes, murder.
Live in the stream.
The thing is, right, so we're entering this time of year here where the temperature started to drop, so the heating occasionally goes on. Now, I don't have any... I have a radiator in here, but I never have it switched on because I don't need it. And so as soon as I shut my door, it starts to just warm up because the house generally warms up. So I had to open my window, and of course I've got my lights on, so at this time of year you get all the crane flies and the moths and what have you. So I'm very sorry, Mr. Cranefly, or Daddy Longlegs as they're known over here sometimes, but you had to die for the sake of this show. It was a noble death, and we shall honour you.
You don't live long anyway.
No, well, that one didn't. Aaron says in the chat room, bug death on stream equals demonetized. Yeah, well, we'll never know. We'll never notice. Never mind. Anyway, right, so there you go. Moog, Matriarch and Grandmother now in the Dark Series. So they've just gone back to typical Moog colours. Talking of colourful things, I thought this was quite an interesting, and it was one of those topics where I thought, yeah, why didn't they already do that? This is not Ben, it's Behringer. Let me get the right screen here. Behringer have, and we're going to Robin Vincent's article on Gear News. They've posited an idea whereby they take their very popular and sometimes controversial guitar pedal business and repurpose them in Eurorack-sized modules so that they can be used with synthesizers. And I thought, yeah, why not? Because we're seeing an increase now in pedals becoming a thing within the synthesizer world. I mean, I'm not saying it's never been done before. Of course, it's been done for many, many years, but there's a big thing now. They're almost becoming an instrument in their own right. And so why not bring out something like that where you've got a range of pedals? And this is a mock-up. So let me just see if I can get that picture any bigger on screen. This is not very clear. But this is a mock-up where they take the Behringer guitar pedals and they've just put them into that standard Eurorack format. I don't know how many U's of width that is. Is that 4? I don't know. I'm not into Eurorack. But I thought that was quite an interesting little thing. Ben, do you use guitar pedals? Would you use something like this at all? If, of course, you were into Eurorack and that sort of thing.
I am into Eurorack. I'll show you later.
Oh.
But, I think that this is a really good idea. I think that Behringer, I don't know if anybody else has already done this or this is actually a first from them, but I think loads of people could get a lot from this because they're not expensive anyway. So if you want to put a chorus in your Eurorack or distortion, whatever, I think the other companies might follow suit on this. I think I don't personally use pedals. I know that Phil in the band, he's got like one with, it's like an all-in-one thing that does different jobs, it's not like separate pedals. But for the Eurorack market, I think they're really onto something there. I think it's going to be quite successful, I should imagine.
Yeah. Cryss, what are your thoughts on Behringer bringing their pedals? Because as a guitarist, do you own any Behringer pedals?
I don't think I have any. I have had one or two in the past, but I think I gave them away. That was back in the days when they were all plastic.
Yeah.
So they weren't known for their longevity, and I was so much into boutique stuff and building my own that I didn't really bother. What's funny is that the mock-ups are not Behringer pedals that I've ever seen anyway. They look like they just mocked up Boss pedals.
Well, isn't that what Behringer pedals are? Mock-ups of...
I know, but the actual graphic of it, I think this is a good idea. They could do it a bit smaller. I don't think at that size, people will still buy them, especially for $29 if that's what they were. But yeah. I think they probably need to make them smaller for an individual effect. The price for effects in Eurorack has been really high, and I think I've only recently seen some that are a little bit lower. So my way around it is I have a module called the Strymon AA.1, and it's just like a 4 HP, I think, module that's got ins and outs on it, and so it's like an effects loop module that drops your signal by like 18 dB. You send it out to pedals, and then you come back in and it boosts it back up to 18 dB for your Eurorack. Okay. The great thing about it is that if you've got pedals already, you don't need to buy any more. So on top of my Eurorack, I have my timeline sitting up there right now that if I need something in hardware, I can plug any of my guitar pedals that I already own. I got the AA1 used for like about a 90 or $100. So it actually saved me quite a bit of money. But for those that don't, instead of having to spend a whole bunch of money on, maybe you just one effect or something, you could drop in a chorus. Or I think on there was, did I even see on there that looked like the Boss like SY3 or SY5 bass synth pedal, which would be kind of funny that they had you chosen that one to put in there.
Yeah.
Obviously, some effects are going to be a lot more useful than others, delay and reverb and chorus and stuff. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ideas that he's like, yeah, why didn't anybody think of that before? Why did nobody think of just making a range of budget effects in Eurorack and then Behringer have already got this technology, so it's just really a repurposing of they would have to just build new faceplates, maybe a new PCB for the switches and the gear and that. But there's not the technology's there, isn't it? So
the one thing that would be a problem is that they would have to do there's a bass synthesizer in there.
Yeah.
One of the problems that they're going to have is that compared to the Boss pedals, for instance, one of the ones that I had from Behringer was their, I don't remember what the model number was, but it was their Dimension C clone. I don't remember, CC300 or something like that. And I have had a bunch of original Dimension Cs and just sold the last one that I had, actually. But the problem is that the chipset that they used for it was a lower voltage, so it tended to distort pretty easy, and that's using at guitar instrument level. So for Eurorack, they're going to have to figure out some way around that to get the levels to work for it. But if they do that, there won't be a problem.
Yeah.
So. But definitely with the repurposing things as much as possible. I mean, Eventide and Strymon have both done Eurorack module effects units, just using the algorithms that they already have.
Yeah.
So Magneto and whatever the Eventide one was, it was a digital delay. So, I mean, at least you have the software mostly done for it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, I think it's a really interesting proposition, and it's one of those things that when I saw it, I thought, oh damn, I'm not into Eurorack, so I'll never be able to benefit from something like this because it's such a good idea, and they're looking. This is Behringer's words, not ours. They're looking to hit a $29 per unit price point, which is just crazy. Why wouldn't you do that? Andrew Brooks asking in the chat room if this is actually real or is it just mock-ups. At the moment, it is just a mock-up. They posted on their Facebook page and said, what do you guys think of this? If we were to make this, would you buy it? And I think the overall response has been pretty positive. I know Behringer pedals have come in for a stick over the years. There's a really good video, I'm sure Cryss knows it, where there's a guy who has his whole channel is about guitar pedals, and he takes the Behringer and the one that it's supposed to be a clone of, the Boss pedal range, and compares the two. And the vast majority of the Behringer pedals are as good as, if not in some cases, a little better or nicer to use or nicer sounding than their Boss counterparts. So they've got the nous to do it. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. $29 each is going to be a steal. So that's
one of the funny ones is that they did in their compact plastic pedals. They did a clone of the Line 6 Echo Park, which itself was a digital clone of an Electro Harmonix Memory Man. So you were like 3 deep in the chain.
Clone of a clone.
Of a clone, yeah. That's just the way it's going to go, isn't it? But yeah, there you go. So Behringer posted that on their Facebook page. If you want to tell them your opinion, go to that Facebook post and tell them and see if they care or not. But hopefully we'll see more of that at some point. Let's do a couple bits more of hardware. A couple bits more of hardware news. The first one is something that is just it's taking away every excuse I have come up with to not buy this thing. EssenceFM from Kodamo has just received a new firmware, and the new firmware, according to their newsletter, adds in a new shimmer effect, a new graphical theme, so you can swap between, so it's kind of like a dark mode, light mode type thing. New icon sets and everything in this new theme. Different features and improvements. So there's a long tap delay. There's a mono mix which offers 4 modes for converting audio to mono. Advanced sound randomization to come up with new sounds. save as features, filter dry and wet parameters, multiple recalls, lots of bug fixes in there. And it just seems like this thing is going from strength to strength. I listened to the demo. Let's see if we can play a little bit of that whilst we're here, because it does sound very nice. I'll just wait for that to load up. Let's see. Here we go. It's going to let me do this. Oh, it's very quiet. Is that me? Oh, now we're getting lags. Okay, let's not do that. So, any thoughts on this one? Just quickly. I mean, it's not a massive thing, but it's nice to see that it's moving onwards.
Well, now that they have shimmer reverb on it, Aaron and Perfect is for sure going to buy it.
Yeah. Now, I mean, it's the effect du jour, isn't it? A little bit of shimmer. But it seems to work nicely. Ben, what do you think?
I think it's the demo that you can play. Then it's just awesome. It's warm. It's got like a real like organic tone to it, and the FM bits, the sparkly tinkly bits that we think of as being FM, they work as well. I'm really interested now.
Yeah.
I think it's the shimmer that's done it, but
yeah. Well,
I'm really interested.
When it first kind of came to light, and there were some issues with the rotary pots not sitting flush, and a couple of other little things. And I have to say, secretly, I guess subconsciously, I was slightly relieved, because I thought, oh, there you go. There's my reason that I maybe shouldn't invest in this right now. But then they fixed those rapidly, and then they've added these other things, and every time they're just chipping away at my defences, and like I'm just thinking, I'm now looking at bank accounts and thinking, would I miss that much? So and because I've got nowhere to put any more keyboards at the moment, so a little module will actually kind of sit quite nicely just here. Or even just on top of the KX88. That would be quite an interesting combination. But yeah, that's Kodamo with their EssenceFM version 4 firmware. They're rattling through stuff and just adding in loads of updates and loads of new features. So it's really great to see that this new kid on the block is doing well. And of course,
it's nice. It's nice that they brought out an update so soon as well. It
kind
of shows that they're going to be. I plugged in that X Touch before, and I haven't used it in ages. And I thought, right, first thing, I better get on the website and download the latest firmware, and that. It hasn't changed since the last time I used it. Nothing. So I reckon they've abandoned that now. That's just like forgotten about. So it's nice when we've seen it with Hyde, with Synth, we see it with the Moog one, even though that's like. Quite expensive, so you would expect that, and it's nice when the people get regular updates and iron out the glitches and add new features.
And they're committed to it, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, it does say on their newsletter that they've prepared this new firmware. It's out now, and they've got the last few units available of the first production run, which are available from their partner retailers around the world. And then they say that after that, there's going to be a shortage for several months before the new units are available on the next production run. So if you want one of these, get in quick, or you're going to have probably have to wait till next year to get your hands on one of these. But I certainly think that they're going from strength to strength. And of course, we spoke the other week about this new keyboard type thing that they're doing that is supposed to be somewhat EssenceFM and somewhat not. So. Yeah, lots of interesting things from Kodamo, and really, really happy to see them doing such stuff. Final bit of hardware news, I believe, for this week is this from our friends at Roland. So everybody get ready to take a drink. You know that I've certainly been speaking over the last couple of months about wireless MIDI and the CME WIDI Masters. So Roland have now jumped into the game with their own wireless MIDI adapters called the WM1, and there's also another unit that goes specifically for Windows machines that don't natively support Bluetooth MIDI. So Roland have come into this, and I had to laugh when I saw this picture, because the Roland effort seems as deep as almost the unit that it's MIDIing up wirelessly there. Look, I commented on the CME page. I said, it looks like Roland has designed a new pair of my granddad's slippers, and they're about the same size as well. They're quite big compared to what is already on offer. They're certainly around the same size, I think, as the Yamaha ones that they released a few years ago. But it's interesting to see such a big brand jumping in on the wireless MIDI thing. So there has to be something to it. They're claiming ultra low latency. They speak about two different modes. Like there's a standard mode and a high speed mode. I'm just trying. Here we go. Yeah, standard mode covers most playing situations. Timing critical applications may benefit from even more speed. Fast mode turbocharges the transfer rate to 3 milliseconds, better than the internal speed of any hardware device, providing ultra-fast communication between the two devices. The CME stuff does that anyway. There's no normal mode and super fast mode. It's just the mode, and it does around 3 millisecond latency. Obviously, round trip is going to be a little bit longer, but
what's the benefit of the slower mode?
I don't know.
Isn't everybody just going to want it in the fast mode?
Exactly. Why would you not want the lowest possible latency with MIDI? What's the? It's not like when you drop the sample rate on your audio interface when you're maybe freezing or bouncing or whatever. When it's not critical to everything to be. But MIDI, it's just like, why? I don't get that. What am I missing? This is the other thing that they've come up with, which is the WM1D, which is a little USB plug that goes into your computer. So most Windows I think all Windows computers don't support Bluetooth MIDI, apparently. I don't know. I don't use Windows for music anyway. So yeah, that's a USB thing that you can plug in. Of course, CME are coming up with the WIDI U-host, which is a USB thing. So they've kind of beaten them to the game there. But yeah, I mean, I just found it funny that they used the boutique range to show this off, and it's like it adds another 3 inches on the back, which is just bonkers. But nice to see that they're doing it. Have you guys got any opinions on these? Are you thinking just Roland's just trying to keep up with what's happening, or do you think this is confirmation that wireless MIDI is here to stay?
Yeah, it's definitely saying that, isn't it? I think wireless MIDI is fantastic for live. It's less cables to wrap up. I wouldn't be buying the Roland ones, though. I think they look hideous, and it has a stupid fast and slow mode that you don't really need.
Yeah, I just don't understand that.
Yeah.
And I think
CME.
If you look at the CME product, it's about half the depth, or maybe 2/3 the depth, on one plug, and then the other plug is at least a quarter of the size of the Roland one. It's about a third of the depth of the CME, because you only need one unit for all of that. For the connection and the power. The other one, the in socket or the import is not. You don't need all that again. So yeah, it just seems weird. But Cryss, you got an opinion on this?
Oh,
Cryss, you can't hear Cryss.
Sorry, I had muted myself.
There we go.
Well, that's probably better anyway.
Your words.
I thought people only tuned in to look at me anyway. So
we missed out there, Robbie. We should have dubbed it.
Yeah, I think they're great.
Yeah, I think competition in the marketplace is always good
Yep.
for the consumer. So to have more choices, more options. I wouldn't be surprised if this actually had a good effect for CME and maybe will boost their sales as people become aware that there's these Bluetooth MIDI modules, even if it's from Roland. Like maybe people will search and go, oh, well, there's other people making these and they're smaller and less expensive and work just as well.
And that's a point.
So,
yeah.
I mean, yeah. I guess depends on your uses. I think it is here to stay, and as latency decreases, we'll see more and more of this being used. These are kind of ridiculously big. For me, in my little studio here, like I'm fine with cables, and I know for my guitar rig, I would never give up a cable unless I'm playing live. That's the only time that I would really, really not ever, use an actual lead. But that's what we're talking audio signal though there.
Yeah.
So with MIDI, I don't think that's such a big deal. And yeah, so I mean, if I were to buy one of these, I would buy the CME version for sure.
Yeah, and the CME version is apparently $20 cheaper. It's $59, and these are supposed to be $79. So, there's a price difference there as well. I mean, got to say, I've got this. This is now wireless MIDI to the sequencer and the rig over there, and it's just perfect. The latency is just not noticeable at all. It's just so nice to use, and the fact that it works on old technology, new technology, it's just great. And I've already put my name down for everything else that they're doing. The U-host and the jack that will go in the back of these things that use the little 2.5mm or 3.5mm jack. So I'm invested in there. In case you hadn't wondered. But anyway, that's Roland's WM1. They've dipped their toe into the water. I wouldn't be surprised if Yamaha released a newer version of the one that they had. Is it the BTS or something? BTS 01. They're into the wireless MIDI game. It'd be interesting to see how that one plays out. Speaking of Roland, there has been more news on the Roland front, and I'm very interested to hear what Cryss has to say about this one. So this is the news that Zenology Pro Advanced Software Synthesizer is now available in the Roland Cloud. And I have literally I've just scratched the scratch on the surface on this one. Haven't really got into it, but it does look immense in terms of its ability, in terms of the things that you can do. And it's now a proper full-blown, software synthesizer, and as well as being, a host for all of those model expansions. And of course, it comes as part of the Roland Cloud. So if you've already got your subscription there, it's just another added bonus, something we knew we were getting. That's for sure. And of course, you can host all these wonderful model expansions in there. So I'm going to defer. Hands up, you guys, who's downloaded it and played with it? Anyone yet? Ben has. Go on then, Ben. Tell us what you think.
Well, at first I was like, "Oh, what's going on here?" I wasn't too sure about it at all. I've got it up on my screen now, and there's a visual edit, which was what I was in at first. And then I didn't notice there's a Pro Edit button next to it, which opens it up so much more. There's different modes of synthesis. Like say for your oscillators, you've got PCM, virtual analog, PCM sync, supersaw, and noise. And then say for instance the PCM one, you've got like something like 600 waveforms to pick, and you can have two of those together. And then you've got the modulation section, the typical filters and envelopes. It does seem quite comprehensive.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see, what you can actually produce when you spend a bit of time with it. But yeah, I'm quite impressed with it, really.
And of course,
very low CPU usage as
Yes,
well.
yeah.
Which is great.
I mean, I guess one of the great things is that it's now you're able to work seamlessly between Zen Core products, both hardware and software. So you can create sounds and share sounds, particularly model expansion sounds, between Zenology Pro and the Jupiter X or the Jupiter XM. You can craft sounds, custom Zen Core tones that will work on the Phantom, the Jupiter X, and the RD88. And of course the AX Edge as well, the Keytar. There's version 2.0 of Zen Beats as well has been released at the same time, so that's capturing the iOS market. This does really seem to be at the centre of a lot of what Roland is doing now, both in hardware and software. So I guess that's got to be a fairly good thing. Cryss, I know that you're kind of like I wouldn't say sitting on the fence on this, but you there are good things and bad things about it. What are your thoughts? Have you had a chance to play or look at Zenology Pro?
Yeah, I spent some time playing it last night, just checking it out. So the engine's already been there. We're just the pro part of it is just being able to do your own work on it and adjust things. So so first of all, I'm coming from it as somebody who doesn't have any sort of hardware that it would be compatible with, and I don't see myself being in the future one that has any sort of Zen hardware. So I think its biggest feature is probably not applicable to me. And same with the the other reason for it, and that's a low CPU usage. And I'm not noticing a radical difference between the ACB or DCB and the Zen Core stuff on my computer. It's very minimal. So in most instances, I will go for the Legendary series stuff. Now, some things that I do like about it, the UI is very clean.
Yeah.
Anything that gets graphical or visual in nature definitely appeals to me. It makes the workflow easier. There are a few times I noticed some particular things on the UI that I don't think were thought out as well. Like having to turn a parameter on or off required two different buttons, so you don't just click it on and click it off. You have to move and do that. So there was a few little niggles, I would say, that I had with that, but overall the interface looks beautiful, and I think the Zenology has the better interface. By the way, they're looking through the patches, and they have a patch rating system in there that's so much better than the ACB stuff. So to break it down for me, like ACB is just completely superior in sound. It's much more alive. Like when I try to make the same kind of presets in Zen and ACB always sounds better to me. But the interface is much better on Zen, and so I kind of wish it would move a little more in that direction, or give ACB stuff an update. I don't think I'll use it that much, to be honest, the Zenology Pro. There's not really anything, despite the Pro name, there's not really anything that's unusual about what you can do with the synthesizers themselves. The ACB versions of, whatever you're using, Juno or Jupiter or whatever, to me are better. The interface is not as good, but I do most of that programming on a System 8 anyway, so that's better than either one of them.
Yeah.
So kind of, again, mixed feelings. There's good things about it, bad things about it. Just kind of that. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, so I really have just had a quick flick around with it, and I switched on switched between the visual edit and the Pro, because I was a bit like Ben. I thought, I don't really see much difference here. Why am I not saying, look, there's the Pro edit button, and he expands it out, and it just seems, I think, takes a little getting used to, and then you're kind of away. The CPU usage is of course better than we've experienced with previous things, but does it sound quite as good? I don't know. But nice to have the fact that it's there in your rolling cloud account at no extra cost. Excuse me, it's got to be good. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, if you don't currently have a Roland Cloud, or you've just got the free Roland Cloud, actually I want to take all of that back. You can try Zenology Pro for free as part of a 30-day trial of Roland Cloud Pro or Ultimate membership. So it's not like you get like a week or so as access if you're just a free Roland Cloud member. So you have to kind of take the trial, which I suppose, this is a fairly big thing for them, so that's understandable. But we shall see how that goes. But I like this, this Zen core, concept that hardware and software can interact. We saw how that kind of worked with the ACB and the DCB stuff, and System 8 and the plug outs, etc. So hopefully this is just going to be more of that. And
what I don't understand about it is what's the cheapest Zen core hardware? Anybody any idea?
Maybe one of those, the Groovebox, maybe?
Yeah, the 707, I think, might be.
Yeah. Now, does that sound exactly the same as the Jupiter X? What's the... It's a good idea having this cross-compatibility thing, but if you're investing like a lot of money in something, I think you're going to want it to sound better than a thing that's quite cheap.
Yeah, but I'm not into it as much. I don't think you can take an MC707 and chuck a model expansion in there and then it becomes a synth. It'll always be like a Groovebox stroke, whatever it does. But it will have, the Zen core engine at its heart, but you'll only be able to send, maybe drum sounds or two. I don't know. But the MC101 is in that family as well, which is even cheaper. And of course you've got Zen Beats, which is the iOS thing, which is interesting. So it's good to see some kind of what's it, homogenization? Is that the word? I don't know. It seems to be working nicely. But there you go. That's
well, and for the people like me that are just interested in the ACB stuff, there is kind of a side effect, is that they are giving everything a lot more attention, even though that there's still quite a bit of bugs in the Roland Cloud system. I mean, right now when I have a very, the fastest MacBook you can get, and when I pull up a plugin, things load instantly except for Roland Cloud, and it takes like 5 or 10 seconds to load it up, and I get the little pinwheel, and it's not my computer, I know.
Yeah.
So, but those things aside, I think one of the most encouraging things is, well, they're having to develop the cloud side of things because they're doing so much of this new Zen stuff and the compatibility and all that. And perhaps that will lead to an overall better system. And maybe, one of the things I'm hoping is like, okay, great, Zenology Pro's out. I'm not really going to use it, but maybe now that we've got this thing out of the way, maybe we'll now move on to some more new plugins, to be available. And hopefully there'll be an ACB, because there are still lots of people asking about that. Every time you go online, whether there's about half the people, or maybe a little more, they're asking for like Jupiter 6, Jupiter 4, Juno 60, and the other half it's like JD 800, JD 9, whatever it is, those type, or the vSynth, things like that. Yeah. There's still so much to do that hopefully we'll see that coming out in the next year. Yeah.
No, it's very true. Now they got this out of the way, hopefully they'll open the door for some other good things. So there you go. That's Roland Zenology Pro, which is now available as part of the Roland Cloud. If you subscribe to that or take out a trial, available now. Next bit of software news. Let's do this one because we are fans, of course. We don't spend a huge amount of time on this one. But this is the news that Valhalla's Supermassive, which is their free plugin, reverb type plugin, is now running 1.1.1 beta, which offers 2 new reverb modes, Great Magellanic Cloud and Triangulum. I haven't downloaded this, so I can't say. Cryss, I know you're a fan. You must have downloaded this.
Yeah, I've already got the beta on these 2 new, and they should release the final version of it this coming week. So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, these algorithms are, if you adjust them the right way, you kind of have loopers, basically, like long delay time looping. But then it gets interesting because you can add the modulation or the diffusion into it. And actually, the most interesting results I was getting was with drums and using some of the modulation and diffusion on it. So, I mean, for a free plugin, my gosh, I use it. I use Supermassive a lot. And especially when I'm kind of demoing and checking out stuff. I mean, some of the other things we'll talk about, like the K1V. Like, instead of pulling up several other, I just pull up Supermassive, and it's, a few of my favorite presets I've saved. And, to test things out there, like, what would this synth sound like that's pretty boring and normal right now if it was super ambientized, Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah. Ben, you dabbled with this?
I've got the original. I haven't got round to downloading the update yet, but that with Spitfire Labs together, that's a great combo. Like, they sound great together. So
it's funny you should mention Spitfire Labs, because they've released something new this week as well. This is Textural Pads, which is the new Labs product. Inspired by sci-fi soundtracks over lockdown, Spitfire Audio's developer Mark Summerall sampled a selection of instruments at his home studio: bowed and scratch bass guitar, kalimba, cello and vocals. Combining these sounds with synths from developer Harnik Mudhar, he used bespoke granular effects to transform his recordings into otherworldly textures. So that's available now, free of charge, and I downloaded it and had a little dabble, and it is, suitably, labs-like, very, atmospheric, and, you can see yourself, using that, and like you say, shoving it through something like Supermassive is going to be very cool. Did any of you guys get a chance to try out the new labs?
Yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm.
So these type of sounds are very interesting to me, but I would say this is my least favorite type of lab stuff, or one of my least favorites, because usually things like this I can do a lot better with some of the other plugins I have that are generating the sound by CPU rather than just using samples.
Yeah.
So with the labs, the things that I tend to go for are unusual sampled sounds that are created into an instrument. The London atmosphere ones are pretty interesting, or the granular whale sounds, some of the trumpet fields, things like that are to me the most interesting. This, I kind of feel like I can do other things. Somebody just brought Yuhi up in the chat, and so I was playing around with Zenology and the new labs and stuff last night, and then I pulled up Zebra HZ after that, and I was like, oh man, yeah. I mean, not to say the other ones sound bad, but to hear that kind of sound that you get from the synth sound being generated is just unparalleled in my opinion. But again, like for what we talk about, for musicians that don't have much money for gear, like we've got so much that sounds so good. Like this Textural Pads, you could do a whole bunch of ambient stuff with it, and it's great. Yeah, you run it through some Valhalla, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we say this every time when Valhalla, release something new that's free, or there's a new labs. There is so much stuff out there that you can get legitimately free that you can just make some incredible stuff with. And it, kids don't know they're born nowadays. They really don't. Have you played with this at all, Ben? Yet?
Not yet. No, I had a bit of a computer issue today. It was on my list of things to do.
Which alcoholic beverage did you spill on that
one? Nothing yet. But
yet.
It was me old time capsule thing.
Oh yes.
I dug that out because I wanted wired internet, and that opened up a whole world of and I couldn't stop the orange light from flashing for about 4 hours. Dear. That wiped out my labs download time, unfortunately. So I haven't tried it yet, but I will. It will be the first thing on my list. I should imagine to download. The lab stuff is excellent.
Yeah.
And for free as well.
We always talk about labs. They can't really do any wrong. So let's take a look at what else have we got. This one's good. Now we mentioned this a while back. unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately for Mac and Linux users, this was a no-go because there was only a Windows version. Well, now this guy Nils Schneider, who developed this K1V plugin, which is an homage, shall we say, or a clone, a software clone of the Kawai K1, is now available as a Mac VST and audio unit and a Linux VST, both in 32 and 64-bit. So finally, I've been able to play around with this, and with my sort of penchant for all sorts of all things digital and 80s 90s sample based stuff, this was right up my street. But there are some great sounds in here. I mean, there really are. I mean, you get 768 presets, so you're not going to be bored. That's the original factory bank and all the ROM cards, and this pretty simple, straightforward editing interface. I mean, it's just great. This is Dexed for the Rompler generation, in my opinion. It's so good. And sounds great, and I've donated because it is completely free of charge, but it's worth at least buying him a couple of beers to spill on his MacBook. But yeah, guys, have you dabbled with this one at all since? Because I'm not sure if you were able to do it the first time around.
I downloaded it. But there's no installer, is there? You've got to drag it into your VST folder.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it, so I haven't managed. I haven't managed
library.
to try it yet.
Yeah. Library, audio, plugins, VST.
Right.
Yeah, components.
And then components for the audio units.
Yeah. So I went watching videos instead and read up on it, and it's excellent. It's an editor. It's a simulator. Mm-hmm. It's got all the ROMs included.
Yeah.
And it's free.
Yeah.
It's like you'd have to be daft to not download that.
Exactly.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and it sounds great as well. Yeah, it's a dated sound, but if you want that, then it's good at what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like, you're good.
It's such a lovely little thing, and anything that is free that's like that, it just makes it even sweeter. What I want to do is I want to try and set it up so that it will correspond to the joystick on my SY22, so I can get do the whole vector thing from there. So that'll be fun, because I think it's just CC 18 and 19 I think for that, for the vertical and the horizontal, so I can just do that. It's just great, free, classic free little synthesizer. Even if you only like one or two sounds out of it, it's free, and it's very small. It's just, I can't remember how big it is. It's not that big at all in terms of file size, and it's just loads of great sounds on there. I'd play the video, but we're just going to eat up my bandwidth. But yeah, there you go. Nils Schneider.de for the K1V is out now on Mac and Linux as well as Windows in the various VST, and of course with Mac VST and audio units there for you. That's available now.
Were you guys having any problems with velocity on it?
I can't say I noticed, but then I didn't go really sort of spend a huge amount of time with it. What were you finding?
I was at some points having a hard time triggering notes unless I was like really slapping down on the keyboard. In fact, I went through and I totally reset my X key just to make sure it wasn't that. And I looked through the velocity settings in there, because I think the original Kawai had something like 7 or 8 settings. Mm-hmm. And then Nils actually had a full blog post on how he was trying to hone in on something to do with the way that the velocity settings, they topped out after a while. But that was my only problem with it, was that I was having a little difficulty with it. But yeah, I mean, it's, from my perspective, that was an era that I missed of synthesizers, mm-hmm. or Rompler. I mean, the big Rompler era. That was my really hardcore guitar days. So to come and hear these things, I don't have the kind of nostalgia about them. I hear them, I go like, when I play it, I try to imagine what it would have been like. And I get the feeling when I listen to the D50 plugin, the cloud plugin, I go, I can understand why people would have gone nuts for this. Or to hear some of the piano-y bell sounds on a DX7, and you go, I can hear that. And I listen to stuff like this, like, oh man, I'm not sure. It is, but the aside from that, the good thing is that like there's some really, it's wonderful to see the labor of love in some of these free plugins, and of course the free bucket, these kind of out of the way, lost to history chords that. Free Bucket is recreating. I love that Fury 800 one and the Trident or Trisent, I think is what he calls it. But I imagine for people that grew up with these early romplers, that this has got to be just as fun as can be. Yeah,
it is, and I had a big thing for romplers in the 90s, and I actually was messing around with the two TGs that I picked up last week, the TG55, which was one of the first, it was like a 12-bit AWM Rompler, and then there was the TG500, which is like an SY85, and I'm just flicking through the sounds, and there is that, there's still a sense of, wow, that sounds really good, but in a crap sort of way, and it kind of just reminds me of how mind-blowing some of these patches were, to have these kind of evolving textures and brass and pianos and strings that genuinely sounded like brass and pianos and strings, and with all these different versions and then multis and performances, and it was just great. And they have their place, they have a niche, and this sits right in.
It was things like the bowing of strings and stuff, wasn't it? It was like things like that, you couldn't get that before. So when it was like, listen to that, you can hear the bow on it.
I remember when I got my sound canvas, my SC88, which was, I guess, mid-90s, and that's the same engine as the JV 1080, that kind of standard studio module from back in the day, and some of the sounds on that they're just brilliant. And they supplied with a floppy disk which contained the drivers, the Windows drivers, and also 8 MIDI files, demo MIDI files. And all you had to do was just load this into a sequencer and just point it at the SC88, and it would go. And some of those demos were just so great. I actually recorded them onto a cassette. And I remember anybody that got in my car for the next 6 months, listen to this. What do you think this is? And they'll be going, I don't know. It's a bloody synthesizer. All of that one little box. It's one little grey box that's making all of that. And some people will go, huh? And others, a few people go, wow, that sounds great. And but it was so mind blowing. This massive orchestration that you could have this one little box. I mean, the SC88 was it 128 note polyphonic, or was it 64 note polyphonic and 32 part multi timbral? I mean, that's I can't people that weren't around at the time, that explosion of polyphony and multi-timbrality that happened at the end of the 80s and the early 90s. It was like, wow, I don't have to have 10 synthesizers anymore. I can just have one. This is amazing. And, it's kind of lost nowadays, that novelty. But, it's great. I love that blast from the past.
I did some great demos with, I thought they were great. I don't think they actually, but all I had was it the D20?
Yes, the
D20, which had the crappier sound generated to the D50, but they sounded great. And it was like, I had my QX1. I didn't use a sequencer in the D20 because I didn't like it, but I had my QX1 running all these like different layers, and it sounded like a finished product. Just that on its own.
I know.
So
It probably sounds
funny.
awful now.
Well, I sometimes I re-listen to those Roland demos when I'm feeling a bit nostalgic, and I play them through the thing. And actually, when Roland brought the sound canvas out in the Roland Cloud, I thought, let's play them through that and see if they remind me. And I still get kind of wistfully nostalgic, and I still kind of there's a little part of me that goes, oh wow, that for that it was pretty cool. So sorry, Cryss, I interrupted you.
Oh yeah, no, it's just kind of funny. So I'm a little bit younger than you guys, and our music creating eras where we started, even though we probably started around the same age individually, I'm back just a little bit further from you guys. But when I remember taking a music recording class in college, and so mid 90s, and we had Roland D somethings, I don't even remember, D20s, D whatever, I don't know. They were black, and they had I think it had a disk drive on the left-hand side, maybe.
Yeah.
And then we were using these the old Macs, way back when. And so very early digital recording. And I remember getting to it. Now, mind you, this is a guitar player that, is sold out for classic rock and metal. And, it's like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and Metallica and stuff like that. And so I'm writing this track, but for the first time I'm getting to use stuff like strings and all sorts of different sounds that I'm not accustomed to making. But probably during the era where you guys were like just tripping out, like, I can't believe these sounds. Here I am, even though I'm the younger one, I'm probably like referencing the 60s and 70s more as my influences than you guys in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting to, I'm like, geez, why can't I find like, for my limited knowledge, I loved some synthesizer stuff back then, but it was like, I knew Mini Moog and the OBXA because I had looked it up. So, for like Pink Floyd and Van Halen and stuff. Although not Jump, I've always hated that track. But
it's their best work.
Yeah, I'm like, where are those sounds in here? Like, this is just like to me, it was not remarkable at all, even though it should have been. I was like, yeah, the string sounds like strings, and trumpets sound like trumpet. I don't think I'll use those.
Everything got too good. That's the problem. Everything just got too good. But back then it was like, whoa, I've got a full orchestra at my fingertips. But it just, it just sounds too nice. Anyway, there you go. So Nils K1V, nilsschneider.de is where you can go. That just a simple Google will find that, and we can all enjoy that for free now. So we've spoken about those and that. I guess, should we talk about Synthfest UK? Should we drop that one in? Because I know that's been doing the rounds of late. So Synthfest UK was postponed, as every other show has been because of the pandemic. So it's very unfortunate that it's not going to go ahead this year. They definitely tried to string it out as long as they could before they pulled the plug, but pull the plug they did. And I remember speaking to the team at SOS, and they said, yeah, we're just going to pull the plug. We're not going to do anything else. We're not going to try and replace it. It's just too much work for probably very little comeback. And all of a sudden, at the beginning of the week, they announced that they are going to do a 48-hour virtual event on the weekend of the 10th, 11th, and 12th of October. So they're going to start things off on the Saturday the 10th, and then just kind of wrap things up on the Monday morning. So unlike a lot of the virtual events that we've seen in the past, where a lot of people are kind of curating contributions from various places, from various YouTube channels and manufacturers and stuff, and then they kind of set a timed schedule and then just run to that schedule. What Sound on Sound are going to be doing is they're just kind of basically going to be setting up a website, a microsite even, and it's going to be completely self-service. So they're reaching out to manufacturers, retailers, developers, and so on, and saying, look, if you want to be featured on this website, we will put it into the right places, and you can visitors will come along, and they want to know about the latest this or the latest that, they can go to hardware, they can go to software, they can go to Eurorack section or whatever section it might be. And I'm just pulling these out of the air. I don't know exactly what it's all going to look like. But one of the things that interested me, and us, should I say, here at ProSynth Network, was this synth community fringe events, and we are going to be one of those fringe events. So on the Sunday, the 11th of October, our show, we hope to be doing a special. Now, I'm not going to say what we're doing because we haven't finished deciding what it is, but we're going to be doing something on that weekend on our regular slot. We're not going to kind of go out, overboard, or we just don't have the time or the resources to do that. Now, I know that Jamie at GeoSynths is committing to doing like an 8-hour stint on the Saturday, so he's inviting people to submit stuff, and he'll share that on his stream actually, and we might be doing a little section on maybe the Fairlight or something on his thing. But we're definitely going to be doing something, and really all we wanted to say was look out for what we're going to do. We're going to be asking, I think, our members in the community what they might want us to kind of do. It could be anything. It might just be something like a panel discussion, or it might be something that's focused on one particular thing, or maybe it's an open question and answer session. I don't know. We'll come up with something, but we'll definitely be partaking of this. But if you go to synthfest.co.uk, you'll see the information there, and there's details will be coming out pretty soon. They're having to kind of knock this one together fairly quickly. But if you pop over to the site there and just maybe bookmark that and see what's going to be happening, and as soon as we know what we're going to do, we'll let you guys know, and hopefully we'll get you involved in there as well. It won't be the same as being there. It won't be the same as that kind of experience of going to one of these shows and meeting all your friends and what have you. But yeah, we'll be doing something, won't we, lads?
Oh yeah.
Yes, Rob.
It sounds good. It sounds good.
Yeah.
Jamie's 8-hour synthethon sounds interesting as well. He's asked me to be on that and all, but I haven't got any kind of specialist area, so I don't know what I'm going to
Come on. About. You're so humble.
I'll just have to do a general synth thing. I'll just join in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds good. We're going to have a guest involved in ours as well, aren't we?
We hope so, yes.
Yeah.
I had some confirmation today, so that should be good. But yeah, I mean, I've for everyone that's watching, we've been tossing some ideas around, and I've suggested a couple of things, and we'll come to a decision. It's not going to be anything special. There's not going to be any great fanfare or super duper thing. It's just going to be we're just going to brand it as a Synthfest UK show, and we'll do something that's different to this kind of thing where we just discuss the news topics of the week. And that's really all it is. But I just felt that we should be part of Synthfest UK because we have a UK contingent here, and it's something that that show is very dear to my heart as well. So I like to just keep the name alive, if you will, for a little while. So anyway, that's Synthfest UK virtual event, 10th to the 12th of October. So that's just a couple of weeks away. So watch this space. If you have any suggestions, and we won't guarantee that we'll do them, but if you have any suggestions, drop them into the ProSynth Network Facebook page, and just let us know what you think we could do. Maybe if you have any ideas, anything that tickles your fancy, let us know. So please do. Right, that's that out of the way. We've spoken about that. Stocking fillers for Christmas, because it's getting close, isn't it? We're at the end of September, so I think the tradition is October 1st is like that unwritten date in the calendar where all retailers say, right, Christmas, let's stick everything out there. I thought this one would be a nice little stocking filler for synth geeks. This is a new book by Oli Freke, called Synthesizer Evolution, From Analog to Digital and Back. Oli does these great hand drawings, and if you were at Synthfest last year, or if you've watched any of the seminars that took place at Synthfest in 2019, you will know Oli's work because it was all over the backdrops. They commissioned him to do that. So this is a 128-page book all printed in matte art paper, and it's basically there's a lot of research. It's not just drawings, so don't think it's just a book with hand drawings in. But there's a lot of research into all of these synthesizers, and it kind of traces the history and shows off their visual stylings, and it just looks like a great little stocking filler for Christmas this year. Unfortunately, there's no other pages other than the front cover. Otherwise, I would have flicked through. But you can find Oli's work all over the place. If you just search his name in Google, it will throw up a whole bunch of stuff. Guys, is this something you would like Santa to bring you at Christmas?
Yeah, I definitely want this. It's a great little coffee table book, isn't it? But hopefully make some discoveries in there as well that you didn't know about before, and the illustrations are wonderful. It's such a unique style. It's a great present. I'll have that if Vicky's watching this. You don't need to get me anything else. I'll have that. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. One other thing that he's done, this Oli guy, is I'm just trying to call up the page. He's done synth, what's the genealogy thing? Yeah, like a family tree type thing, and. Whilst it doesn't, it's not just like one manufacturer and how it's like synthesizer technology, and how it's kind of evolved and which machines begat other types of machines through their technology. I'm just trying to find an image online that shows some of that, but that's really I like that sort of family tree type thing. He's done like timelines and stuff, but then there's this kind of genealogy family tree thing that he's done. With various technologies, and now here we go. Here's a picture. Let's see if I can call this up and show this on here. It's just taking its time. Synthevolution.net is the website, and it's very slowly loading up. We'll get there in a second. This is great television, isn't it? Come on. Here we go. So you can actually order these as silkscreen posters that you can hang in your wherever it is, in your toilet, your bedroom, in your studio, and it kind of the timeline goes down on the left, and then you kind of see these as it descends towards the modern day, and where these certain technologies cropped up and how they inspired or developed other technologies. It's a really nice thing. The guy knows what he's talking about, and then he draws them, which is quite cool. So it's slightly different. Cryss, how about you? You fancy some of this for Christmas?
I think I'm with Simon, and we both need a Dreadbox Typhon for our stocking stuffer. Asio had once a Moog 1.
Yes, well, how big are your stockings? Yeah.
Hell of a stocking filler, that one.
I'll say. Yeah, no, you can get mugs as well.
What's the main present?
Yeah. See, but this is the thing this is. Yeah, here you go. Here's another idea. So the Synth Evolution mugs. We all like a good mug. I know, and you can get a mug with any synth on it. You just name it. So, I can get a Fairlight mug or a DX7 mug. Cryss can get a Moog 1.
I have a mini Moog mug.
Or a mini mug, yeah.
Say that 3 times.
Ben,
mini Moog mug.
Ben, what would you have?
I'd have a V-Synth mug, I think.
A V-Synth mug. Should we see if they do a V-Synth mug?
As soon as I've got 2 of them, I think I'm entitled to a mug.
Let's have a look.
I've got an ugly mug.
Roland. No,
Yes.
you can't have you've got old Rolands, but there's no V synths. But there's a Series 2 Fairlight, and look at all those Yamahas.
Is there a JD800?
You've got SH1, SH2, 3, 5, 09, 101, 1000, 2000, System 100, TB303. There was one down here, an SH7. But yeah, no, there. Unfortunately, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
But I can have my DX5. That would be cool. I might mention that to the missus. I'll have a mug to go with the T-shirt.
Yeah.
There you go. Stocking feathers for Christmas. So anyway, the book is called. What's the book called again? Synthesizer Evolution, and it's out on Velocity Press, priced at £18 plus shipping, I guess. And then you've got Synth Evolution posters and Synth Evolution mugs, and the guy's name is Oli Freke. I hope I've pronounced that. Freak or Frek? I don't know. But yeah, there you go.
It's interesting that it's a synthesizer evolution from analog to digital and back.
And back again.
And it's kind of going back again.
And yeah,
it? You know?
So it's analog to digital and back again and back again. Yeah. Absolutely. Talking of digital synthesizers, and here's this week's second FM, but this is the first DX thing of the day. It was just like this was made for me, this video. So I've spoken about this guy before, I believe, on here. His name is his actual name is R.A. But he goes by the moniker of madFame on YouTube and on Patreon. And his whole thing is about programming DX synthesizers. So he'll take you through how to program a patch. And if you become a patron, he'll send you patch sheets, he'll send you sysx files, and also you get early access to other things. And one of the things that we had early access to was this episode of his kind of regular documentary type thing. It's kind of like an Alex Ball type stuff that's going on here. And it's the origin of the DX7 and FM synthesis. And I'm telling you, this thing is just brilliant. It's so well researched. He's spoken to Dr. Channing. He's spoken to Hiro Kato from used to be Yamaha, who worked on FM from 1974 onwards. He's got some exclusive pictures that I've never seen before, and I look for this stuff. It's like porn to me. And this is just such a great video, and it's out now on YouTube. And I'm just showing you a small clip here, but it's kind of done in that kind of Alex Ball style documentary. He's researched it. There's lots of great pictures. It's very clear, and he talks about the different paths towards FM that happened, and then of course Dr. John Channing and how he sort of happened across FM synthesis and what it was doing, and then how that then got passed on to Yamaha when they licensed it from Stanford, and then it takes you through a journey through all of the FM synthesizers for the very first Electones that featured it, right through to the DX7 and that whole family that came from there. And it's just superb. 22 minutes of your day well spent, in my opinion. And the guy has done an incredible job, and I've been a patron now for some while, and it's well worth the $5 a month that it is to do this. Did you guys get a chance to watch this, or have a flick through?
I've not had a chance to watch it yet, but I'm definitely gonna watch it because it looks great from what I've just seen. I love all that retro gear, and I noticed it said something about it like it was monophonic and it had a triangle waveform. It's like the embryonic stage of FM, isn't it? It's be really interesting to watch that. Yeah. I'll probably watch that after.
Well, I say it's 22 minutes, but it's 22 very interesting minutes, and I was learning stuff, and I don't consider myself to be an expert, but I bury my head in books and websites about this stuff a lot, and there was new things on there, and he'd got pictures of developmental versions of the original synths that I'd not seen, like the CSDX. He's got other pictures of the CSDX which are really nice to see. So there's some really great stuff in there. Cryss, did you get a chance to watch this?
I haven't yet, but I have it saved on my watch list, so I'm looking forward to it. There's been some great documentaries, and YouTube has really proven itself as a platform for good documentaries. With Alex Ball's, all of his are just amazing documentaries, and this one I'm really looking forward to watching.
Have you? Speaking of Alex Ball, have you seen the one on Super Drums?
Well, I was literally just queuing that one up as you were saying, and yeah, there it is. Alex has done this really funny video featuring is it Florian Pills from Bad Gear. And it's just great. I mean, again, it's another sort of like 5-6 minutes of comedy, music, and information all rattled. And this is why this guy is a genius.
That's what's wonderful about it, though, because it is a laugh.
Yeah.
And there is a good. I feel a bit weird saying this, but a good 80s tune in there that he makes up with it.
That's the sickening thing with Alex. He is a stupidly good musician as well. You get a lot of these people that demonstrate things, and like me, who really don't know how to play. And then this guy comes along and just knocks it out of the park by writing a great piece of music using just rubbish gear.
Is it me, or I'm seeing this video? I'm getting a distinct Graham Chapman. Is that his name? Vibe from Alex Ball here.
Yeah, he has that. He has a Chapman look about him, definitely.
And then he's doing this kind of comedy stuff, so it really.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that Alex has been doing a little bit of research on this, and the instrument in question is this Korg drum machine, which is pretty damned awful. It's called Super Drum, and it really was anything but. However, he managed to unearth a bunch of pictures of Joe Zawinul with his massive rig of Rhodes Chromas and Polarises and loads of weird and wonderful, amazing gear. And then sat on the top was one of these things, and he's there's a picture of him playing it. So it just goes to show that equipment's only crap if nobody can get anything out of it. But if somebody can get something decent out of it, it's got to have some kind of intrinsic value, hasn't it?
I thought it sounded all right. I'm going to be rooting out some samples of it because I did like the kick and snare.
Yeah.
Like Alex said himself that the.
But it had no MIDI, didn't it?
But I know it's got DIN sync, but it runs at a different rate to other DIN sync devices. Yeah. So you can't sync it up really.
So it's DIN non-sync, DIN kitchen sync. I mean, it's just this very odd little thing. I was funny because I was looking at something. You might have, I don't know if you noticed. I wasn't being rude, but I was looking at my my eBay on my phone because there's some Oberheim gear that was it's called. There was a strummer and there was a drummer, and they're not instruments as such as they're kind of like MIDI playback devices. And the drummer was supposed to give you this kind of human feel. So what you did is you connected that up to your drum machine. And it would kind of give you like a human playback feel, and it was just like on there for like 15 quid. It ended up selling for about 70. I thought, no, forget it. I don't really want it that much. But there's all these little interesting pieces of crap, I guess a lot of people would say. But you give it to somebody who's got some talent, and they just make it work. It's very good. Highly recommend that video from Alex Ball. It's on. I think Alex and Florian have got it both on their channels. Audio Pills is the channel of the other guy, but of course you can just go to Alex's channel, and it's just very, very funny. Very fun. If you can hear a noise in the background, it's my daughter drying her hair. So we started the show with my son in the shower, and we're getting close to the end with my daughter drying her hair. So I apologise.
I did mine before the show started.
So there you go. So that was Alex Ball, and before that we had madFame and his origin of the DX7 and FM synthesis, and that is it's a fascinating story of how that kind of accidentally came about, and then how they developed it and refined it into something that became more usable, but maybe not quite as usable as other things. So we've got one more topic left, and we've got about half an hour or so to go. Did you guys want to do a little, we'll pick one of the topics that some of the guys have given us? Yeah.
One thing that was mentioned is that Aaron was asking about good reverbs.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's anything we love discussing, it's reverb plugins.
This is true. This is true.
Although, I don't know, maybe he was talking about, maybe he was more interested in hardware. So he did just buy Valhalla Shimmer, but Aaron, you thinking heading more plugins or hardware? That would be an interesting topic, and I don't know what else anybody else has to suggestions you have for our topic.
Well, the other suggestions I think we had were what synth features do you need or not need, or why do you buy a particular synth? But yeah, I mean, reverb's fine. I mean, if you want to, has Aaron come back on that one yet? I don't know. Plugins. Okay, well, go on. I don't know, Ben, your favourite reverb plugins?
I just have to have a look which one I use. I've got Cubase open here, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Hang on. I do like the Valhalla stuff, but I've got some Lexicon ones.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see what they are. The Lexicon, Lexicon Chamber, Concert Hall, Plate. I think they sound really good. They're like, they sound to me as good as hardware reverbs. I have got hardware. I have got like a Yamaha Rev 500 and an SPX 2000, and what's built into this as well. But for the plugin side of it, it's either got to be Valhalla or these Lexicon ones. I always go back to them. But the Logic built-in reverb's all right.
Yeah.
There's nothing really wrong with that.
Yeah.
For me.
Mm-hmm. Cryss,
it's just like a general kind of wash that you put in on.
Yeah.
That'll work.
It's kind of inoffensive, isn't it? It kind of does the trick, and then you can go in and maybe tweak it later. Cryss, what are your favourites?
So, in hardware, the Strymon stuff is where I've been for a long time, and that sounds wonderful. I've had some nice spring reverbs, but I tend to favor hall type reverbs more. And so on my pedal boards, I've been using Strymon stuff. I have some other things too, like I have an Eventide H9, but I just don't think it sounds good for reverb. But for plugins, I mean, for the number one that I always recommend is Valhalla Vintage Verb. If you want like an all-around reverb that sounds good, it has, it roughly kind of correlates to some of the vintage 70s and 80s, I think both hardware and algorithmic reverbs, if I recall correctly. Can correct me if I'm wrong, but like when you pull up its default patch, it's such an amazing place to start from. I usually just tweak that one a little bit, and I've been so lazy, like I haven't created a bunch of presets like I would on a synthesizer because one of the things that I like about the Valhalla stuff is that there's several people behind them, Don Gunn and Sean Costello. Sean Costello is such an amazing sound designer. Like he's one of my favorite. Like when I think of people like Eric Pershing, and we think about people who program synthesizers, but as far as effects, Sean Costello is a synth player. He does a lot of stuff with a Moog grandmother, but his love of vintage reverb and delay units, and it bears out in his plugins. And so it's one of the few companies that I get like really fanboyish about. Another would be Top Pat guitar amps. They're just amazing. But Vintage Verb, as it's only $50 all year. There's never any sales, so you can buy it anytime. Obviously the Valhalla Supermassive is free, and I would say check that out first because it does have some reverb sounds in there that are like unworldly big. Like don't look to get any sort of, you can get it to a bit room sounding, but that's not really what its thing is. I would suggest I don't have Valhalla Room actually. That's the one that I don't, and I don't remember I don't have Play either, but I have everything else that Valhalla has made. In addition to Vintage Verb, some specialty reverbs that I use would be for shimmer. So Tritic Irid is like a kind of more smeared, warm shimmer type reverb. The Eventide shimmer is kind of what you think of when you think of shimmer reverb. And then the Strymon shimmer stuff actually to me is the most musical. It's on any of their Big Sky or even the Blue Sky. I don't really care for the Blue Sky that much, but the shimmer on it is good. And then the one that a couple of them that I'm checking out that I'm kind of waiting for a sale is, oh crap, what it's called. Let me get my list out here for a second. I keep lists of things because I need to make sure I'm buying stuff in the right order and not just being a crazy gearhead. So one that gets recommended quite a bit, I don't know if either of you guys have this, is Liquid Sonic's Seventh Heaven reverb.
No.
So it is basically a Bricasti reverb. In fact, I think they've gotten some sort of official connection with them, with Bricasti. So if you haven't heard of that, it's like really, really high-end hardware reverbs. And so this Liquid Sonic Seventh Heaven is basically the emulation of it. They have two different levels, one that's like under $100 and another that's a couple of $200 or $300. And so those are often that Seventh Heaven reverb is often recommended on forums when people go like, what's a really good reverb for recording? And I mean, I guess it kind of depends on your purpose. But I would think like the Seventh Heaven and Vintage Verb, things like that would be would kind of span the gap between like realistic sounds, like rooms, environments, and like unworldly, like Lexicon Hall type sounds. And Valhalla likes a lot of does a lot of the Lexicon type sounds and that's what I really love, like the not real space type reverb sounds, like I'm thinking like late 80s kind of stuff sometimes, where you have that beautiful like modulated hall reverb sound that if you have just like a solo instrument just takes you to another place. Really love those kind of sounds.
Yeah. I mean, I'm no an expert on reverbs and effects, but because I was using Reason a lot, I kind of stuck with what they offered. Obviously you got the little reverb, the very simple one. Then you got the RV 7000, I think it's called. And in the last kind of couple of versions of Reason, they really expanded, the presets in there, because it's a convolution reverb as well. So you can make your own and throw those in, and it's just a really versatile, simple to use reverb. But then I started getting into other things. I got the T-Rack stuff, and I can't remember the name of some of the reverbs they got in there, and they're very nice. But the one that I always kind of go with, because I find it almost musical in a sense that you can play around with it and get some different effects, is UVI's Spark Verb, which I really, really like, because it's just nice and simple to operate, but it also has this kind of algorithmic thing. It almost looks like a constellation. Let me see if I can bring this up on here. It's like a constellation effect, and each dot on this map represents. Here we go. Each dot on the map represents a type of reverb. So, like red is hall, yellow is plate. There's kind of a yellowy green, which is large to endless. Green is vocal, and then you've got room, drums, ensemble, choruses, and shimmers down at the bottom there. And so what you can do is you can kind of like move between these things and drag them towards others, and you just kind of get these different, either sometimes really simple shifts, and then sometimes really dramatic ones. And it's just a really nice thing to play around with. So if you've got a sound. Maybe you've got an 8-bar loop going, and you just think it needs livening up. You can start this, and then just mess around and drag. You're not having to. It's one of those simple to use things where you don't really have to know what every knob on the thing does. Just move around this little sort of star map, if you will, and come up with some some crazy sound, and then you can zoom in on the things and get really kind of fine on it. So that's one of my favourites, and all of these UVI plugins they're like €129, which is not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, and they do a lot. They also do a plate reverb, UVI plate, which is a really nice sort of plate sounding reverb. But I'm kind of with Ben, because when I moved to Logic a year or so ago, I was doing something and I needed reverb, and I thought, oh, here's an ideal opportunity to try the Logic reverb. I forget, is it Chromaverb? Is the name of it? I can't remember. Is that right, Ben?
I think so. Yeah.
And it was so instantly good that it was. Oh yeah, I like that. That'll do. And it really is. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife of reverb that's just very simple, quick. Just get some good stuff, and then you can tweak around with it later. But I kind of like that. But I would say that if you're kind of looking outside of built-in reverbs into DAWs, my favourite would probably be Sparkverb, just because it's fun to play with and experiment.
I've got two more suggestions. Just looking what Aaron was talking about, he wanted more modulation, looking for color, so that's like not natural space, but unusual, more colored, more interesting. Two, so one I got recently, which was the Synaptic, hold on a second, what's the name of it? Adaptive Verb.
Oh yeah.
That thing is crazy, and I haven't used it that much, but definitely check some of the sound demos on that. That's a little more on the expensive side. I waited till it was on sale, and I bought that and a couple of their other plugins. But it will do some really interesting, unusual, even like pitched reverbs, frozen reverbs, all of that kind of stuff. That's an interesting one. The other one to check that you might not think to check would be Valhalla Ubermod. That was the first Valhalla plugin I bought in like 2014, I think. It's a very versatile plugin. Like if you want one plugin that will be able to be used for a variety of things. I mean, Supermassive kind of has a range of sound. Ubermod blows it away as far as what you can do with it, because you can be doing like sort of dimensional choruses, like multi-LFO type of beautiful ensemble, voiced choruses. Other things like through zero phalanging. But then you can do delays, like everything from like really clean digital delays to you can like really affect the repeats on how they sound. And with diffusion, you get into reverbs. And then because it's got such great it's a modulator as well, that you can get some really crazy modulated reverbs and delays and all sorts of stuff that blend the lines. Ubermod is not free; it's $50. But if you got a license for it, that's cool. Let's see. Did I get Ubermod for free? I think a free license was included. Probably not. You might be thinking of the hold on, what's it called? Valhalla. So Valhalla Supermassive and Valhalla Space Modulator are free, and you're probably thinking of Space Modulator, which is just like chorus and flange and phaser. But Ubermod, and that's a really simple interface. It just looks like a boss pedal, like just like 5 knobs on it, though. But Ubermod is a really, really deep thing. It's probably been forgot about because it's such an old plugin. It's got to be, let's say, I've had it for 6 or 7 years. So, and it's a little before anybody really know who he was. But it did just sound like I said I knew about them before it was cool. I don't know. Okay. All right.
Damon says in the chat room, right. Ben's new huge room looks like it could have natural reverb. It does. He's just sat there quietly nodding. Can you hear us,
Well,
Ben?
you know, we get natural reflections right up here, right?
Yeah. It is very reverby, as you can probably tell.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch that video that somebody suggested earlier about dampening down the room with very, very little budget. That's what I need right now.
That's it. But do you know, it sounds better now than it did 2 or 3 weeks ago when there wasn't much in there.
Yeah.
Now you got the equipment in.
It actually doesn't sound too bad just playing on synths.
Yeah.
It's when you're talking.
Well, the thing is, you're using a built-in mic there, aren't you, at the moment? Because we had problems getting your mic through, so that doesn't help, unfortunately. I mean, I reckon if I was just doing that in here, it would still reverberate because I've got this damn great like angular ceiling here on this one side that just throws everything back down again. I'm actually kind of looking to move away from software effects because I really want some hardware effects, because I'm now kind of finding myself living over here and using hardware sequencing rather than doing stuff on the DAW. And so I don't want to have to route audio into something on the computer just to do that. So I'm looking for something hardware. So I don't know if I can find something like I know that I've been very kindly offered an SPX 90, I think it was, at a greatly reduced rate, I hope, at some point. But I'm looking for just something to put into the hardware chain rather than doing software. So I wouldn't, I'd like some kind of, obviously with my passion for Yamaha, I would like something like a Rev 5 or a Rev 7, or even just like an SPX to give me a whole set of things. But although saying that, I do have this, which I need to figure out how to route it in the NTS1, which has got some great effects on there, and you get some free stuff as well, that you can download, or even just pay a very small amount of money for these little plug-in, whatever they're called. But the big long reverbs and the choruses on the NTS1 are just superb. For what it is. My problem is routing it, because I don't have a suitable kind of routing option where I can take all of my audio into that and then back out into the mixer, and so I need to figure out what I'm going to do there. But that's some interesting ideas. Hope that's helped Aaron in the chat room, and anybody else that's watching. What our recommendations are. We're not paid to do any of those.
But one of the benefits to this is that I listen to Aaron's albums a lot. So if I recommend him a good plugin, I get to hear it again.
Indeed. So I'm just typing in the chat rooms. I can't do two things at once. I'm a bloke. There we go. So that brings us sort of kind of neatly towards the end of the show. We're almost at time, so it gives us a few minutes to discuss what we're doing. Ben, what have you got lined up for this week, especially if they're going to lock you down even further up there?
Yeah, well, I've got a couple of late nights working, but I'm still configuring things in here, like ironing out like little glitches and what have you. So I'll be carrying on with that. And then obviously we've got the new version of Electro 80s that's going to need all the set doing and everything. So we're going to have to start that at some point as well.
Well, I think you've got plenty of time before you're going to be able to go out and do something live.
Definitely.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, we're going to need about 40 odd songs or something to be able to swap things around.
Your mission for next week, by the way, should you choose to accept it, other than trying to get your microphone working, going through. Next week, I want to hear you play Enola Gay on the micro preset. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's for. It's all it's for.
This is great. It's a great little thing.
I bet it is. Yeah. Well jealous of that. It's a classic. So that's your mission for next week. Enola Gay, the riff on the micro preset. Okay. Better still if you can do the whole song. I'll be very impressed.
I would on that. I don't think.
Well, no, you got all that other wonderful stuff around you. It doesn't.
Oh,
take
right.
much. Yeah.
I thought you meant just on that. I'll try and do that.
Well, yeah, you could.
Hey, you got two hands, right?
Yeah, I mean, what
And
more do you
unlike
need?
me, you can use both of them.
Have you? What's that Russian synth meme that goes around with the two kids and he's playing his keyboard not with his fingers? Have you seen that one? Or no. I'll share it later. Just, I mean, you say about using that. When I were a lad, we used to have these interform music competitions. Every year we'd have like an arts and crafts type festival thing, and there'd be a music competition, interform music competition. And this was like 1984, 85, and I just discovered this Korg 700S that the school had got. The only other keyboards that this school possessed were pianos or a Bontempi organ, and I was nominated by my class to be the entry for our interform music competition, and so I'm going up against other kids who are like being professionally taught the violin or the clarinet or the oboe or whatever. They're being all, they're all the posh kids, having the professional lessons. I rock up with my 700S and my Bontempi organ, and I'm doing the bass line on the chord pattern on the Bontempi, and I'm using the 700S to play Axel F by Harold Faltermeyer badly. So if I can knock out a tune with the Bontempi organ and the Korg 700S, you can do it on a micro preset.
I'll have a go. Yeah.
Challenge laid. There you go, Cryss. Anything fun lined up for the coming week?
Got a guitar video coming out, so it's actually about a very cool amplifier. So be putting that out. And other than that, I've got some other like projects to finish. The Prophet's back with its owner, but I've still got to finish up a track that I'm gonna put out in late October on the channel that kind of shows off some of the sounds, and it's more of a darker. So it'll be in for good time for Halloween, I guess. So, but I got lots of editing to do on that and the video, so my week will be in front of a computer. Yeah,
isn't it always the way? I'm going to be transferring more sounds onto my new toy, which is I should have got it. It's over there on the. I bought a memory card, but it's my new toy. It's 16 Yamaha data blades in one, so it's got a little twirly little switch on it, and so it's multi-format as well, so I can use it on the SYs and the TGs. You can just format each bank, and it saved me hundreds because to pick up these cards online, the originals, they're about anything between 60, 80 and £100 a piece. This one cost me 120, I think it was, and it's 16 cards in one, and you just select through the dials. So I spent most of yesterday and today downloading or transferring the SysX from my computer onto there, and then saving it onto the card, and then bringing it all over. So that's good fun. So I'm kind of accessing loads of new banks, and I managed to find some Sound Source Unlimited banks, and these were big. There was a big company in California, back end of the 80s, early 90s, that developed sound libraries for FM synthesizers and Korg M1s and Roland D50s and all that. So I've managed to find a whole bunch of discs from a guy in New York who supplied me with some bits and bobs. So they're winging their way over. So I'll be throwing those onto the DX7 and playing with those hopefully in the next few days. Other than that, it's just day job.
There's been some interesting album releases this week by people in the synth community, and so of course probably the one that people have heard of it a lot online because it's been with the Dark series releases of the Moogs is that Lisa Belladonna has got actually 2 albums out now, but one of them is with her Mothership, which is so before she had some what's the small one? Mother 32? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, whatever the Mother one is, and I don't know if there's DFAMs in there, whatever, but she's got this bank of those, and now she's got the Black Grandmother and Black Matriarch, Dark Series Matriarch and Grandmother there, and doing everything with just this giant bank of black Moogs. And so that's something that's kind of on my list. And then one of our members of our ProSynth network, actually, I think there's been 2 album releases, at least within the ProSynth network. Steve Pierce has put out another album. It's the project called Extra World. It's available on Bandcamp.
Mm-hmm.
And the new album is called Starless, and I just listened to that last night. If you like dark ambient, which I do, that's another great one to check out. So very cool synthesizer stuff that's not mainstream Spotify kind of stuff, but are such great albums.
Yeah, I've got to. I got this yesterday. I've got to work my way through this. This was quite often referred to as Prince's Fairlight album, but this is the Sign of the Times reissue that came out on Friday, and it's 13 albums, 13 discs in there, and that's a lot of stuff to go through, lots of vault stuff. So that'll keep me.
Heavy.
It is, and expensive, but worth every single penny. It's one of those really great 120-page hardbound book with loads of pictures and stuff in there, and essays and sleeve notes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's such a good album when you listen back to it, and some of the stuff you hear the Lindrum going through so many of those tracks. Even when he's got live drums playing, the Lindrum is still his thing. And of course, there's lots of Fairlight on there as well. So it's a great album. Many, many happy memories of that. So there you go. That's just gone 10 o'clock. That was ProSynth Network episode. What episode was this? 26? Yeah, 26.
26. Wow.
Yeah, getting there. It's creeping up slowly. So if you have any suggestions, excuse me, for our Synthfest UK show, which we'll be doing on October the 11th. We've got some ideas, but if you have some, we'd like to hear them and see if we can maybe do those. Drop us a line on the ProSynth Network Facebook page. If you're not a member there, please do request to sign up. If you invite anyone, can I just put this one out there? If you invite any members, which is, we thoroughly encourage you to do so, please just tell them to answer the questions, the entry questions. They're very simple. They're not invasive. It's just to prove that they're human and they want to be there. At the moment, we've got a bit of a queue sitting in there, so we need to get those people through. Otherwise, we just can't, let them in. But as ever, that page is just, rapidly. Well, not rapidly. It's over the last, I don't know how many months, it's become quite a lovely place to hang out, and lots of people are saying the same, which is very rewarding, I'm sure. Yeah. So we'll be back same time, same place next week, and we have, I believe, a very special guest who is either getting up stupidly early or staying up stupidly late. Is that correct?
Yeah, it'll be 3 a.m. and it'll be Rands. Rands will be on with us.
Rands Adamson. So this kind of incestuous nature of us all appearing on each other's shows. I think, has anybody else been on Rands'? Have any of you guys been on Rands' show?
I've not.
No. Well, no. I'm sure you will. I've been on Rands'. I think we've all been on Jamie's, and Jamie's been on ours. And now Rands is coming over. So we'll jump into bed with each other. But yeah, that'll be fun to actually have Rands as a guest and let him just kind of sit back and chill and talk rather than having to worry about how it's all going to work. So that'll be cool. So that's next week with Rands Adamson, and then the week after. We've got our Synthfest UK show, which we will be making more details available as the days go by. Until then, take the greatest of care. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we'll see you back here at 8 p.m. UK time on Sunday the 4th of October. I think I've got that right. And until then, have a good one. Bye-bye.
See you.